getting even more of an opportunity to develop themselves and come back and permeate that into my team. Bring that attitude and skill and experience back into my team. Scholastic soccer, about how do I balance that in my schedule. I'm giving the kids some time off. Indoor soccer, if it's a part of what we do. If you do indoor soccer, if it's possible, I don't know what the availabilities are. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the type of indoor soccer. And then if it's possible, play futsal as opposed to banging it off the hockey walls.
Yeah.
Okay.
To a touch line.
Yeah. So we're playing to a touch line instead? Perfect. Perfect. Because I think that impacts development a whole lot more and has a bit more of a correlation to when we go back outside. And then, you know, a big one for players and coaches, schedule time off. Even during the season, we schedule time off. One of my colleagues, when I lived in Louisiana, I used to be the technical director for the Louisiana Soccer Association. He's with one of the biggest clubs in the state in Baton Rouge. And he scheduled, even during the season, he scheduled 1 weekend per month off during the season. So every month during the season, they had 1 weekend off. And he would get phone calls from the parents that are new to his team going, "Coach, we got the schedule and there's something wrong. All right, what's happening here?" Well, that's a weekend for you to go do something else with your family. Oh, by the way, for me to do something else with my family. And he would often get a "God bless you" at the end of that conversation for, you know, thank you for giving us a weekend, because we forget the impact that soccer has, particularly travel soccer has, on the entire family, not just the player involved. So some of the challenges that our most talented players play too much but don't train enough. Because they're good players, every team they play for asks them to play. And they play the maximum number of minutes usually on most of those teams during a match. And so they get to a level and stagnate. Because they're not training often enough in order to improve. So it's down to this ideal ratio. The ideal ratio is 5 training sessions per match. So for every match you play, you've had some kind of a combination of 5 training sessions. Whether it's 2 a week, 3 a week, probably not 5 a week unless you're dealing with the under 18s or under 17s, sort of a thing. The whole point being, whether it gets to that high of a ratio or something less, like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, is that we need to be doing more training than we are playing. And I tell parents and I tell coaches, it's like sending your child to school and the only thing you ever do is take examinations. If all we're ever doing is playing matches and matches and matches, how are we going to learn in order to improve our game? That happens in the training sessions. You want your child to go to school to take lessons, not to take exams. Exams are just one small piece of the academic experience. It's merely a measuring stick. What you're really there for are the lessons. What you're really paying for as a parent, when you join a soccer club, you're really paying for the training sessions. You're not paying for the matches. You're paying for the training sessions. And you should look at the matches being like your kid taking an examination at school. So along those lines, one little analogy that I make to moms and dads, when your kid takes an exam at school, do you go sit in the back of the classroom and yell out the answers? Do you expect the teacher to be sitting at the front of the classroom yelling out the answers? And that's what a match is for a soccer player. It's their chance to show us what they've learned. And so coaches, for the most part, be quiet. And moms and dads, if you're there at all, for the most part, be quiet. You don't, odds are when the kid's at school, you're not there, mom and dad. You let them do that experience on their own 2 feet. Let them do their sports experience, soccer or otherwise, occasionally on their own 2 feet. Right? I know my parents dropped me off a whole lot. Granted, that was back when the ball was square and before electricity was invented. But, you know, I got dropped off a lot. My parents weren't they were at some, but not all of the things that moms and dads are at today. They don't need, the kids don't need us around all that much. So as coaches, thinking about, in regards to my matches, where do these things fit in? How many friendlies do I have? How many regulation matches do I have? How many league matches do I have? Those sort of things. Just part of the schedule. We talked about the tournaments. Who am I playing? Where am I playing? When and why? Answering those questions to a good soccer reason as to why I'm participating in a tournament. Not going just for the sake of going to a tournament. Again, when I was in Louisiana, I had teams in New Orleans would drive over to Pensacola, Florida, which was about a 5-hour drive to the soccer complex to play. And I started to ask them, well, how many, what are the other teams that are there? Well, it's mostly us. So you're telling me it's mostly teams from South Louisiana, drive 5 hours. How many teams from Florida there? 1 or 2. How many teams from Alabama, Georgia, etc.? 1 or 2. It's mostly us. Well, why are you going? Well, the parents wanted to go to the beach. It's a good reason. It's a good reason to go to a soccer tournament. All right? So there's all kinds of reasons that people go to tournaments. It's not always a good soccer reason. All right? These are just some a breakdown of ideas. Again, it's not an exhaustive thing, but you can see from the base at number 1 on up to team skill at the top, a few of the things, and these are just ideas just to get the brain percolating. Not an exhaustive list, but just some of the things that we're trying to do and accomplish in each of these stages of going through player development. These are the categories that we're looking at. So this is broken into the biological stages of human development for active soccer players. Childhood goes approximately, infancy is approximately birth to 3, childhood 3 to 9, but most of our kids are coming in registered at 4, 5, 6 years old where they register with our clubs. So that's the first column, and so up at the top, across, that's the training environment that we're looking to have. And then down at the bottom is the match environment that we're looking to have. And so after childhood comes puberty, basically middle school age kids. Then after that, high school age kids and college age kids is adolescence. And then after, biologically, after approximately age 23 is when you're into full adulthood. The skeletal system's completely closed, finished in terms of bone tissue at the end is done growing and is closed. The body's completely adapted biologically into adulthood. And so these are the training environments and the match environments that we're looking for, those different biological stages of development. Some of the other things that coaches need to impact kids on as athletes to lead an athletic life are your off-the-field habits. Right? Talking to moms and dads about proper sleep habits, hygiene habits, hydration, eating habits, etc., etc. You know, and then the whole balance for the kid, their academic life, their social life, their soccer life, maybe they have a part-time job life, their family life, etc. And we as soccer coaches have to recognize that there has to be a balance to all of that. And so the administration, understanding all of that, cannot detach their decisions from this reality of what's the life of the soccer player and the life of the team. And we talked a little bit about the business plan. The technical plan is basically your curriculum. Okay? And we've talked a little bit about parent education, but the parents are the social support system to the kids, and to a large extent, you know, to the club. They should be providing emotional security and psychological strength and development to the kids. They should be providing by example as well as word good sporting ethics, good sportsmanship, and teaching your children fair play by the things that the parents do on the sidelines and the things that they teach their children about sportsmanship and fair play. That the adults need to be focused predominantly on the process of playing and less on the outcome. It's usually the other way around, because we adults have had decades of being pounded upon to focus on the outcome. Your boss cares about the outcome and a little bit less about how you got to the outcome. But for children to learn how to play the game of soccer, they need to focus on the process of playing, how to play the game, and a little bit less on the outcome. Once again, not to say that we're not striving to do our best and trying to win. We should always be doing that. But the process of learning how to play is more important during the childhood years and the adolescent years. One of our former under-20 national team, men's national team coaches, played in an under-20 World Cup, Jay Miller, says, we're asking our players to compete before they've learned how to play. I thought that really hit the nail on the head. We're asking our kids to compete before they've learned how to play. Well, how can they compete if they've not learned how to play? Play in the sense of technical and tactical play. Right? So the impact of facilities certainly has an impact on the club, its identity as an organization, as an entity. Programming, budgeting, affiliations, we've touched upon this a little bit, and that the facilities also impact the development of the players, just like your school facilities impact their academic development. So the club's facilities impact the player development. You guys have this, the outreach program for soccer for disabled players, which, by the way,